He didn't know it yet, but tonight would shatter everything he believed about fate, fear, and the fragile lines that hold a life together. It began with a sound, soft, distant, almost impossible to notice, yet it forced him to stop breathing. Daniel Hale, a man who had spent his life running from the shadows of his past, suddenly felt them catching up. He had escaped his old life, moved to a quiet town, and built something that resembled peace. But some secrets don't stay buried, not even under a lifetime of silence. The night was colder than usual, the wind scraping against the windows of the small cabin he rented on the outskirts of Ridgewater. He had chosen this place because it was quiet, invisible, and far from everything that had once tried to destroy him. But as he sat alone, the faint echo returned. 3 gentle knocks, spaced with precision, like a message only he was meant to hear. He froze. No neighbors for miles, no visitors, no one who should know he was here. He stood up slowly, heart pounding, breath tight, every memory he had spent years trying to suppress, suddenly clawing its way back to the surface. He approached the door, but before he reached it, a voice, soft, trembling, whispered from outside, "Daniel, please, I know you're in there. I need your help." His blood turned to ice. He hadn't heard that voice in 14 years. The last time he heard it, the world he loved collapsed in front of him. He opened the door a crack. And there she stood, Elena Ward, the girl he once promised to protect, the girl who vanished without explanation, leaving behind questions that destroyed him. She looked exhausted, her clothes dirty, her eyes pleading, but the most terrifying part was the envelope in her shaking hand. "They found me," she whispered, "and now they'll find you too." Daniel pulled her inside, locking the door behind them. His mind spun. Why now? After all these years, his life had been carefully rebuilt piece by piece. Solitude and an unspoken rule to never look back. But Elena's return meant one thing. The past wasn't done with him. She dropped the envelope on the table. Inside was a single photograph. A man lying unconscious in a warehouse. A man Daniel recognized instantly. A man who should have been dead. "You told me he was gone," Elena said. "You promised me." Daniel's voice cracked. "He was." "No," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "He's coming." The room felt smaller, suffocating. Daniel had lived with the guilt of that night. The night everything fell apart. The night he made a choice that turned him into someone he no longer recognized. He had believed it ended there, but the photograph proved otherwise. Elena backed away, shaking. "I didn't know where else to go. They want something from you, something only you have." "What?" Daniel asked. "Your memory." Before he could respond, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small metal device, a device he had never seen before, cold silver with strange markings etched along the sides. She placed it in his hand. "This is what they're after," she said. "But I don't know what it does. I only know one thing. If they find it, they'll destroy both of us." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The cabin creaked. A rumble in the distance rolled like thunder. Elena grabbed his arm. "Daniel, they're already here." A black car appeared between the trees, headlights off, moving slowly, deliberately. Daniel's instincts, buried but never dead, roared to life. He pulled Elena toward the back door, part hammering as the crunch of tires on gravel grew louder. "You know what to do," Elena whispered. But he didn't, not anymore. For years he had tried to forget the man he once was. Tonight, He needed to become him again. They ran into the forest, branches whipping against their faces, the air cold and sharp. Behind them, footsteps multiplied. More than one person, more than two. They were being hunted. Elena stumbled, falling to her knees. Daniel lifted her up, refusing to leave her behind. "They won't stop," she cried. "They'll chase us until—" "Not if I end it," he said, breathless but determined. A beam of light cut through the trees. Voices shouted. Footsteps grew closer. Daniel turned, grabbing a fallen branch like a weapon. But before he could swing, the same soft knock from earlier echoed in the forest. 3 precise taps. Daniel froze. So did the men chasing them. Then everything went silent. So silent, it felt unnatural. A figure emerged through the trees, tall, calm, wearing a dark coat, his face hidden, his steps measured. The men who were hunting Daniel suddenly stepped back, fear replacing the confidence they had a moment before. "Daniel Hale," the stranger said. "A long time ago, you made a choice. Tonight, you face the consequences." Daniel swallowed, forcing strength into his voice. "Who are you?" The stranger tilted his head. "You already know." Elena grabbed Daniel's hand. "Don't listen to him. He's not here to talk." "No," the stranger said. "I'm here to finish what you started." And then the forest exploded with light. Branches splintered, shadows twisted, the ground shook beneath them. Daniel shielded Elena as a wave of energy surged outward, throwing the men behind the stranger into the air like broken leaves. Then, as the light dimmed, Daniel saw the strand. Time and his world shattered. It was him. Not just someone who looked like him, it was him. Another Daniel. Older, harder, colder. A version of himself he never thought possible. "You ran from your past," the older Daniel said. "I embraced mine." Elena gasped. Daniel stepped back, stunned, trembling. The older version stepped closer. "There are 2 futures," he said quietly. "One where you keep running, and one where you finally become who you were meant to be." Daniel could barely speak. "What do you want from me?" The older Daniel smiled, a chilling, tired smile. "I want you to remember." The device in Daniel's hand began to pulse with light. Elena screamed. The forest shook again. Time itself felt like it was tearing. And as Daniel stared at the older version of himself, he finally understood. The real enemy wasn't the men chasing them. It wasn't the past he had buried. It wasn't even the truth Elena brought back. The real enemy was the future he was destined to create. And the night everything changed had only just begun. Daniel didn't blink. He couldn't. The older version of himself stood only a few steps away, illuminated by the flickering beams of moonlight slicing through the forest canopy. Elena clutched Daniel's arm, trembling not from fear alone, but from the realization that everything they thought they understood about danger, about fate, about their past was wrong. Completely, terrifyingly wrong. The device in Daniel's hand pulsed harder, each throb syncing with the beat of his heart. He felt something pulling at him, memories he didn't recognize, emotions he couldn't name, shadows of choices he had never made. The older Daniel watched him with hollow patience, like someone who had seen this moment 1,000 times before. "Why are you doing this?" Daniel finally managed to ask, voice shaking. Older Daniel breathed, slow and deliberate. Because you still think you have something to lose. Daniel's jaw tightened. I don't want any part of this. You don't have a choice, the older version replied calmly. The moment she walked back into your life, everything was set into motion again. Elena stiffened, guilt flashing across her face. Don't blame him. I forced him into this. I had nowhere else to go. Older Daniel shook his head. You should have stayed hidden. Now, all 3 timelines are collapsing. Before Daniel could process the meaning of those words, the forest trembled again, this time deeper, heavier, like the earth itself was struggling to stay intact. Birds exploded from the treetops. A distant crack rippled through the night, as if reality had momentarily split open. Elena stepped forward, voice cracking. Tell us what this device does. Tell us why they're chasing us. Tell us who you are. Older Daniel's eyes darkened. It's not who I am. It's who you become. Daniel felt the world tilt under his feet. I don't become you. I won't. That's all. You already are, the older version replied. Just a different version, a softer one. The older Daniel pointed at the device. That is the key to every future collapse. It records decisions, tracks timelines, stores versions of you. And someone very powerful wants to rewrite everything you've ever done. Who? Daniel demanded. The older Daniel's eyes flicked to the shadows behind the trees. You're not ready to know his name. And what about you? Elena shouted. If you're him, if you're Daniel, why are you trying to hurt us? Hurt you? The older version almost laughed. I'm trying to save you, but you're making it impossible. Before Daniel could respond, a sound tore through the forest, a mechanical howl, metallic and unnatural. In the distance, a swarm of red lights appeared, weaving between the trees like predatory fireflies. Elena grabbed Daniel's hand instinctively. They're here, she whispered. At least a dozen figures emerged from the darkness, tall, faceless, moving with inhuman precision. Their bodies weren't made of flesh. Daniel could see the faint, metallic sheen beneath their cloaks. Machines, hunters, something far beyond anything he had encountered before. The older Daniel stepped back, lifting one hand. Stay behind me. You can't fight them alone, Daniel said. I already did, in your future. The machines moved in a perfect line, encircling them. No breathing. No hesitation. No emotion. One of them spoke, the voice layered and distorted. Return the memory core. Timeline contamination detected. Reset sequence initiated. Daniel felt Elena's grip tighten. The older Daniel whispered, whatever you do, don't drop that device. The machines lunged. Daniel barely had time to react. The older Daniel moved with impossible speed, faster than human, faster than anything Daniel had ever seen. He struck one machine across the chest, sending it crashing into a tree. Sparks exploded. Another machine charged. An older Daniel twisted, slammed his elbow into its neck, and tore its head clean off. You've done that before? Daniel shouted. In every timeline, the older version replied. But even he was struggling. For every machine he destroyed, 2 more took its place. Elena pulled Daniel behind a fallen log as beams of red light cut through the air, scorching the bark and lighting up the forest like a battlefield. What do we do? Daniel whispered. Elena looked at the device. You trust me? I have no one else, he whispered back. She grabbed the device, pressed her thumb to a hidden panel, and the device burst open, revealing a swirling core of blue energy inside. It vibrated violently, pulling air toward it as if it was vortex. The older Daniel saw it and froze. "Elena, no!" But she pressed the core with both hands, flooding it with energy. Everything shook. Trees, ground, air. The machines stopped, confused, their lights flickering. Daniel shouted, "What did you do?" Elena's face was full of fear and determination. "What I should have done years ago." The core exploded with blue light. Time slowed. Sound evaporated. The forest twisted like liquid. Daniel felt himself being pulled, forward, backward, sideways, all at once. He reached for Elena, but she was already fading. Her voice echoed through the collapsing world. "Find me before he does." Then she vanished. The machines dissolved. The older Daniel disintegrated into light. The forest melted into darkness. Daniel was alone, falling through a tunnel of fractured moments, broken memories, and impossible futures. Then silence. Then impact. He hit the ground hard, gasping for air. He sat up, coughing, vision blurred. And when his eyes finally focused, he realized he wasn't in the forest anymore. He was standing in the middle of a city he recognized, but not as it used to be. Towering buildings of shifting metal, screens showing warnings, signs marked with dates he didn't understand. A sky split by glowing fractures, a future he never imagined, a future he somehow created. Behind him, a voice spoke, calm, familiar, cold. "I told you, Daniel." He turned slowly. His older self stood there again, but this time with an army behind him. "Welcome," the older Daniel said, "to the timeline you tried to escape."